serve as ministers, guess what? Plymouth Church has become your home. It happens to all of us. It happens all the time. But the worst kind of bubble, the one that really messes us up, is the bubble that's built for one. Sometimes we burrow so deep inside our own heads. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in our own thoughts that we can no longer consider any perspective other than our own, can no longer hear any voice other than our own. It's a bubble built for one. Now, I don't know about you, but that is a bad place for me to be. Cut off from the wisdom of others, left to the mercy of my right ideas. It's not good. That's when I tend to get into trouble. 1,500 years ago, St. Augustine described the selfish life as a life lived, in the Latin phrase, incurvatus in se, curved in on itself, unable to see anything other than the self, unable to hear anything other than the self. Epistemic closure. A bubble built for one. A bad place to be. Did you notice something strange about a guy in this story? He talks to himself. He only talks to himself. When the bumper crop comes in and he has all this bounty and he does not know what to do, he doesn't ask anyone else's advice. He doesn't consult an outside expert. He figures it out for himself. He has to figure it out for himself. And that does not go very well. You see, the longer this guy talks to himself, the uglier and the stupider he sounds. Building a bigger barn, well, that makes sense. That's just prudent. But by verse 19, he sounds kind of narcissistic, kind of self-involved. Look at my big pile of stuff. I've got it made. Time to kick back, relax, and live a sweet life. No concern for the needs of others. No thought given to those who have neither a barn nor food to fill it. No thought for anyone else, really. He's living in a bubble built for one. But then, in verse 20, the bubble bursts. But God said to him, "You fool, this very night your life will be demanded of you, and these things you have prepared, whose will they be?" Haven't considered that. Never even gave it a thought. But that's what happens when we spend most of our time in a bubble built for one. Sooner or later, life will serve up some nasty surprise. But that's why we read this story. That's why this story is so important. It suggests that God will not leave us in that state. Because we are loved, because we are precious to God, sooner or later our bubbles will burst. And it may be the best thing that ever happens to us. Do you ever rehearse for an argument you plan on having in the near future? I won't ask for a show of hands. I know how it goes, because I do it too. You start thinking about some conversation you plan on having with your boss, your spouse, your child, and you start practicing the arguments that you're going to make, or going over in your head. And as you practice, you realize you sound really good. And as you envision this, you're winning the argument hands down, you're triumphing through passion and force of superior logic, and the more you rehearse, the better it sounds. This is going to go great. But then what happens? You finally have a chance to sit down with your boss, your spouse, your child. You launch into this argument that you have rehearsed, but for some reason, outside of your head, it doesn't sound quite as convincing. And you start to falter, you start to flounder. And then, the other person says something unexpected. Something you had never considered. And just like that, the rug is yanked out from under this argument you have so